una exposición sobre lo que significan los sistemas de inspección no intrusivos, su importancia y correcta operatividad. Se hará un análisis de las necesidades y correcta identificación de los riesgos por parte de las autoridades. Además, ¿cuáles son las implicaciones para todos los participantes de la cadena de suministro y para el comercio internacional de Costa Rica? Recibamos con un fuerte aplauso a VYARA Filipova, técnica oficial en los procedimientos y subdirectora y facilitadora en la WCO, World Customs Organization. La señora Filipova se encuentra fuera del país, por lo que su conexión será virtual. La señora VYARA Filipova es oficial técnica en la Subdirección de Procedimientos y Facilitación de la Organización Mundial de Aduanas, OMA. Contribuye al trabajo de la Secretaría de la OMA desde abril de 2015 y se ocupa de una amplia gama de temas de facilitación del comercio. Su cartera de trabajo incluye la Conferencia de Tecnología de la OMA y el trabajo de la OMA para el desarrollo de un formato de datos de inspección no intrusiva global, así como el comercio electrónico, el tránsito, el papel de la aduana en el alivio de desastres naturales y la Convención de Aduanas sobre Contenedores. Recibimos a la señora VYARA Filipova con un gran aplauso.
And to apologize that I do not speak Spanish and I'll be doing my presentation in English. I have prepared some slides. Will the organizers be sharing the slides? Or you will enable my function in Zoom? Okay. So I would like to start with a brief introduction to the World Customs Organization, which is an independent intergovernmental organization exclusively focused on customs matters. There seems to be some issue with the animation, I think.
Excuse me, can you see your presentation?
No.
No? Okay, because we can do it.
Okay, if you can do, that will be great.
Mm-hmm. You can go on if you want. We can see your presentation.
So if we can go to the second slide and take a minute for a brief introduction to the World Customs Organization. We are an independent intergovernmental organization representing 185 customs administrations worldwide. The organization was established 70 years ago. We were celebrating our 70th anniversary in January this year. And the mission of the WCO is to provide leadership, guidance, and support to customs administrations to facilitate legitimate trade, to secure a fair revenue collection, and to protect society. We do this by fulfilling three key functions. The first function is to develop the international standards in the customs domain. The second function is to provide capacity building assistance to our members to implement those standards. And the third function is to uphold the international cooperation. This includes the cooperation with partner international organizations, but also the cooperation with the private sector, between customs and the private sector at the national level, as well as between the WCO and the private sector at the international level. And for this, we have the private sector consultative group of the World Customs Organizations, where Basc is a member and makes a valuable contribution to the work of the private sector consultative group. In terms of the global standards that we develop, I need to say that they are based on input from our members, the 185 customs administrations worldwide. Most of our instruments and tools have regular review cycles, regular review mechanisms, and the review and updates are also based on members' input and on implementation experiences and evolving best practices. On the next slide, I would like to present one of those international tools, which is the SAFE Framework of Standards. The full name is the SAFE Framework of Standards to Secure and Facilitate Global Trade. We already heard about it from Mr. Moncayo in his opening remarks. It was developed and launched in response to the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, with the objective of establishing modern supply chain security standards. SAFE Framework of Standards is one of our instruments that undergoes regular reviews. When it was adopted in 2005, it had two pillars, Pillar 1, Customs to Customs cooperation, and Pillar 2, Customs to Business partnership. In one of its editions, the 2015 edition, a third pillar was added, which is the pillar on cooperation between customs and other government agencies. The latest edition of the SAFE Framework of Standards is the one from year 2021. And among the changes are the strengthening of the standards on cooperation between customs and government agencies, the introduction of some provisions on the use of electronic customs seals, and on the development of regional customs union programs for authorized economic operators and for implementation of mutual recognition agreements. On this slide, which is on the screen, you see the objectives of the SAFE Framework of Standards, which are to establish standards that provide supply chain security and facilitation at a global level to promote certainty and predictability, to enable integrated and harmonized supply chain management for all modes of transport, to enhance the role, functions, and capabilities of customs to meet the challenges and opportunities of the 21st centuries, to strengthen cooperation between customs administrations to improve their capability to detect high-risk consignments, to strengthen cooperation between customs administrations, for example, through exchange of information, mutual recognition of controls, mutual recognition of authorized economic operators, and mutual administrative assistance. Another objective is to strengthen cooperation between customs administrations and other government agencies involved in international trade and security, such as through single window facilities. The strengthening of customs business cooperation is another objective of the SAFE framework of standards, as well as promoting the seamless movement of goods through secure international trade supply chains. The next slide, if we can move to the next slide, shows the 5 core elements and the 3 pillars of the SAFE framework of standards. The first element is that the SAFE framework harmonizes the advanced electronic cargo information requirements on inbound, outbound, and transit shipment. We will talk later about the importance of advanced electronic cargo information, so that is one of the core elements of SAFE. The second element is that each country that joins the SAFE framework of standards commits to employing a consistent risk management approach to address security threats. The third element is the conducting of outbound inspections at the request of the importing. There has to be a justified request of the importing country, and these inspections need to be done by non-intrusive inspection equipment. If we can go back to the slide with yes, thank you. The fourth element is the partnership with trade. The SAFE framework of standards is the international tool where the Authorized Economic Operator Program, or AEO program, was introduced, and many of our members are implementing the AEO program. And the fifth element is the cooperation with other government agencies. At the bottom of the slides, you see the 3 pillars of SAFE that we talked about. If we can go back again, I think there's some animation in the slide that is. So pillar 1 of the SAFE framework of standards, which is the customs to customs cooperation, combines 3 of the core elements of the SAFE. These are the advanced cargo information, the use of risk management. So the advanced cargo information is the basis to perform risk management by customs, and the use of non-intrusive inspection technologies. On the next slide, I have shown 3 of the 11 standards in Pillar 1. Standard 3 is the basis for introduction of non-intrusive inspection equipment in customs operation. And the standard says that non-intrusive inspection equipment and radiation detection equipment should be available and used for conducting inspections in accordance with risk assessment. So what the SAFE framework of standards recommend is that customs do not do 100% scanning, but scanning should be done on the basis of risk assessment. Why should we use non-intrusive inspection equipment? That is not to disrupt the flow of legitimate trade. The other standard that you see on the slide is standard 7 on targeting and communication, and standard 11 on outbound security inspections. So this is what I was mentioning as one of the key core elements of SAFE, that the Customs Administration should conduct outbound inspection based on a reasonable and justified request of the importing country. What we do to support the implementation of these standards in the SAFE framework of standards on non-intrusive inspection equipment. On the next slide, if we can move, I have shown, can we have the next slide, please? The WCO developed the guidelines for the procurement and deployment of scanning or NII equipment, which in short we call the WCO NII guidelines. The objective is to assist the member customs administrations that are considering the procurement of scanning equipment including the upgrade of such equipment, and the assistance comes by detailing relevant administrative issues. The guidelines cover elements such as defining the needs, defining the user requirements, where we have specific parameters of the scanning equipment that we have provided as optimum parameters that members can put in their tenders, guidance on the procurement process, factory accepting, deployment, tests, maintenance, and what was introduced during the last update of the guidelines is a section on decommissioning, because it is also a very important part of the life cycle on what you will do with the scanner when it comes to the end of its life cycles. The guidance do not necessarily reflect all national needs, and it again stresses the importance of integrating the NII equipment into the customs processing and basing the scanning on risk management process. And again, in order to have an efficient risk management process, you need to have advanced cargo information. One of the annexes to the guidelines contain best practice stories shared by 3 of our members. So these are Australia, Hong Kong, China, and China. The best practices by Australia and Hong Kong were drafted back in 2011, while the one by China dates back to 2018. In these best practices, all 3 members have identified the benefits from the use of NII equipment, and the benefits are grouped in 3 main groups. So benefit for customs, benefit for trade, and benefit for the government. What Australia has identified as benefits for customs is the ability to inspect a greater volume of items in a timely and cost-effective manner, improved revenue collection and detection of prohibited items, facilitating legitimate trade and interdicting smuggling activities. In terms of benefits to trade, Australia has identified less physical inspection on cargoes, which is necessary and therefore shortens the time for cargo clearance. And in terms of benefit to government is the intervention in the inspection and examination of air and sea cargoes has been decreased by focusing on an intelligence-led and risk-based deployment of resources. And this was a result from a continued reliance on NII scanners to efficiently screen baggage and cargoes. And despite the reduction in intervention, comparable detection rates were maintained. Another benefit for the Australian government was that the use of this equipment provided protection to the community at the border. Hong Kong again has identified benefits for customs traders and society. For customs, it is increased operational efficiency at borders and seaports, enhancement of contraband detection capability, reduction of revenue loss, anticipated manpower and cost saving, and improvement on supply chain security. The benefits for traders are reduced operating costs and enhanced cargo security. The benefits for society are reduced risk of terrorism, enforced social order, and suppressing drug supply and associated crimes. China's case is specifically on the use of centralized image analysis, and I would say that this is one of the recent best practices that we observe members implementing. This is not done only by China, but also by the Netherlands, recently by Spain. And on the next slide, I have shown details on one of the WCO tools that supports centralized image analysis. This is the unified file format, which is a WCO-sponsored standard for NII data. So that's a format which is universal, and it helps centralized image analysis because if you have scanners produced by different manufacturers, they would produce the image in different formats. And by using UFF, you can analyze images on one workstation by one operator, and all the images will have the same functionality offered by the UFF. The objectives of the UFF development are to support equipment interoperability, the exchange of images within and between customs for customs purposes, the creation of libraries of images, and the training of image analysis, and also the training of AI algorithms. And the deployment of AI algorithms is another trend by customs, and I would say a best practice and an enhancement of the operation of the NII equipment. On the slide, you can see the timeline of development of the UFF. Currently, we are in phase 3 of the UFF development. On the next and last slide, I have shown some other WCO tools and fora that are relevant to this topic. So first is our working body that deals with non-intrusive inspection equipment. This is the technical expert group on NII. Which is open to all WCO members and the NII vendors. And the vendors are full-fledged members. So this is one of our working bodies where the private sector has full membership rights in the working body. The next meeting will be held at the end of November this year. On the left-hand side of the slide is the WCO study report on disruptive technologies, which was initially developed in 2019. And last year it was updated in cooperation with the World Trade Organization. And it explores the use by customs and the potential use by customs of 7 types of technologies, among which artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things, drones, biometrics, etc. And at the bottom of the slide is our flagship event of the WCO Technology Conference and Exhibition, which is held annually. In 2023, it will be held in Vietnam from the 10th to 12th of October. And the theme of the conference is around the theme of the year of the WCO, which is on nurturing the next generation. And the conference, through its various sessions, will try to showcase how technology can make the customs profession attractive for young people, what are the special skills that are needed to work with technology, or how technology can support knowledge transfer. And in addition, we'll be discussing all those disruptive technologies like blockchain, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, etc. In parallel to the conference, there is an exhibition where vendors will be showing the latest developments in the solutions that they provide to customs. So this is the end of my presentation. I'll be happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Filipova. A continuación, don Álvaro va a moderar algunas preguntas hacia doña VYARA. Recuerden que pueden escanear el código QR en pantalla para plantear sus preguntas. Adelante, don Álvaro.
Good morning, VYARA. Nice to see you.
Good morning. Same here.
Yesterday, our country announced that we are, as of today, the first country in the world where a major port scans 100% of the containers coming in and out. This was a major announcement by the government. I'm gonna translate just for the benefit of those who don't speak English. Le pregunto a VYARA, o le cuento que ayer nuestro gobierno anunció que este será el primer país, porque ya recibimos la notificación también oficial, donde se hará el escaneo del 100% de los contenedores entrando y saliendo en un puerto, en un puerto importante. This is a 1 million TEU port per year. Los idiomas oficiales de la Organización Mundial de Aduanas son el inglés y el francés, y entonces de ahí que esta presentación pues la pudimos hacer en inglés. I was telling them that the official languages of the WCO are English and French, hence the presentation in English. What recommendations, because unfortunately none of the processes recommended by the WCO for implementation of NII seem to have been followed in this particular implementation. What recommendation do you have for our authorities, given that this is a fact? The systems have been engaged, they're operating, and it started yesterday. So given this whole context of we are not a country that has implemented the advanced cargo information protocols, none. We have not implemented the NII guidelines for the implementation of, the WCO guidelines for implementation of NII. And we're not really conducting risk-based analysis. What recommendations will you have, or might you have, for our authorities? And I'm gonna say it in Spanish, so when you respond, or to give you time to respond. Le cuento a la señora VYARA que sabemos que este proceso de implementación de los escáneres o de los sistemas de inspección no intrusiva no siguió la guía que ha publicado hace muchos años la Organización Mundial de Aduanas, no sigue la recomendación de enfocarse únicamente en aquellas mercancías que representan alto riesgo, sino que más bien pues nos vamos a lo que la Organización Mundial de Aduanas no recomienda, que es el escaneo del 100% de la carga. Entonces, tampoco tenemos, para hacer una gestión de riesgo, las declaraciones anticipadas como las promueve el marco SAFE de la Organización Mundial de Aduanas, y entonces pues es muy difícil para un departamento de riesgo hacer una interpretación de una imagen si no se tiene la totalidad de la información que contiene o que promueve el marco SAFE. Entonces lo que le pregunto es si tiene alguna recomendación para el país en vista de que pues el programa ya está andando. VYARA.
Thank you, Álvaro. That's a difficult question, I would say. On the slide that was introducing the SAFE framework standard, one of the bullet points said that 172 members of the WCO have sent letters of intent expressing their intent to implement the SAFE framework standards. Costa Rica is among one of those 172 members. So Costa Rica have expressed its intent to implement the safe framework of standards. And again, the core elements, three of the core elements are the submission of advanced cargo information by economic operators for the use of risk management, and the scanning of cargo based on risk management. So only high risk cargo should be subject to scanning. Otherwise, we won't be able to call it non-intrusive. It will be interfering with the flow of traffic if 100% of the cargo is scanned. We do understand that our members cannot implement all the standards of the safe framework of standards at once. It is a staged implementation based on national priorities, and what the WCO can offer is capacity building support to requesting members on the implementation of the standards. So what Costa Rica Customs can do is request capacity building support, especially with regard to implementing advanced cargo information requirements, risk management, and the use of those scanners that you have at the port. I can tell you, it is public information that Belgium Customs also wanted to introduce 100% scanning at the port of Antwerp. But they were clear, they knew that they will be disrupting the flow of trade if they scan 100% of the containers. For that reason, they convened meetings with the manufacturers, with the NII vendors, to ask them to think of some innovation that can make the 100% scanning without disrupting the flow of trade, without making the processes slower, etc., etc. So far, this project has not materialized. So Belgium is not yet doing 100% scanning, although they had this thinking already, I would say, 5 years ago. So the global standard is to scan high-risk cargo, identified through risk management, and risk management applied based on advanced cargo information. And the WCO is there to support its members, so if the government and the customs of Costa Rica request support from the WCO, we will organize missions to explain in detail the standards, approaches to implementation, best practices of other members. So that would be my reply to this question.
Thank you. Bueno, el resumen ejecutivo es que definitivamente la política, la práctica de la Organización Mundial de Aduanas es que el tráfico transfronterizo sea regulado en la dinámica que establece el marco SAFE. Esto tiene que ver con las declaraciones anticipadas de la carga, la gestión del riesgo a partir de la información que se desprende de esas declaraciones anticipadas. Una vez que se ha identificado el riesgo, pues trabajar con la aduana de origen para que sea la aduana de origen la que haga la inspección inicial con sistemas de inspección no intrusivos para no entorpecer el flujo de las mercancías. Pues esto es lo que generaría un círculo virtuoso de intercambio de información y de agilización del tránsito transfronterizo, que de otra manera pues no sería beneficioso para la sociedad. Nos contaba VYARA que Bélgica hace 5 años trató de implementar un programa de inspección del 100% de contenedores en el puerto de Amberes. que se identificó que eso iba a ser un obstáculo para el flujo eficiente de las mercancías a través del puerto, y pues Bélgica desistió de ese, o no es que desistió, sino que le pidió a ciertos fabricantes que desarrollaran tecnologías o alternativas para poder agilizar ese proceso de escaneo del 100% sin que esto se convierta en un obstáculo para el comercio, y dice que bueno, que a la fecha no existe esa tecnología, y por lo tanto pues Bélgica no escanea el 100% de sus contenedores en el puerto de Amberes. Ofrece también VYARA las ventajas que ya están, o sea que ya tenemos, porque Costa Rica forma parte de la Organización Mundial de Aduanas desde el año, creo que desde el año 2003. Se comprometió Costa Rica en la implementación del marco SAFE en octubre del 2006. A la fecha no tenemos las declaraciones anticipadas de carga, que es la tabla del 1 de la gestión del riesgo, ¿verdad? No podemos gestionar el riesgo si no tenemos información, y si no tenemos esas declaraciones anticipadas, la información que tenemos es muy básica, es la información de los manifiestos, que es información que en realidad no dicen gran cosa. Y entonces, bueno, lo que ofrece VYARA es que ojalá las autoridades se acerquen a la Organización Mundial de Aduanas, y para eso, por supuesto que Basc, que participamos en el grupo consultivo del sector privado en la Organización Mundial de Aduanas, y participamos en el grupo de trabajo del marco SAFE, que se revisa cada 2 años ese instrumento, porque pues constantemente el crimen está innovando, y por lo tanto pues que es el instrumento fundamental para la gestión del riesgo transfronterizo, tiene que estar siempre actualizándose. Que se acerquen a todo el aparato de desarrollo de capacidades, capacity building le dicen ellos, para apoyar a las autoridades a ver cómo podemos tratar de mejorar las condiciones en las que se está enfrentando esta situación, con muy buenas intenciones, pero que no necesariamente esta estrategia está respaldada por la experiencia de países desarrollados. I tried to make an executive summary of your recommendations. I think it's pretty clear, and the call is for us to implement as soon as possible the advanced the safe framework of standards as a whole, but especially the advanced cargo information, the advanced declarations, the risk management dynamics, the cooperation with customs at origin, of course, the consideration and the benefits of those companies that are part of the solution and not part of the problem, because they have implemented means to lower the risk of their supply chains, and of course to coordinate the operations with other government agencies at the ports. Anything else?
I would like to add that the SAFE is a very practical tool. It has 2 annexes with data elements. Annex 2 is for the advanced cargo information, and Annex 3 is for the preloading advanced cargo information, which is for safety purposes. So it makes this easy for members to implement, having the data elements that they can request as advanced cargo information. And another point on the 100% scanning is that it adds costs, not only time, but also costs for customs and for trade.
Indeed. Thank you very much, VYARA. Fantastic
Thank you, Aurora.
presentation. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Un aplauso para VYARA.